And welcome back to Let's Play TerraFirmaCraft. My channel's got a lot going on right now, and I really want to make sure I don't neglect my TFC Let's Play, so I wanted to get this video out. It's been a couple, probably almost 2 weeks since I've done a video. I don't know, I have to check for TFC, but I've had a couple of intervening matters. I've been playing a lot of 7 Days to Die, Medieval Engineers, a little bit of Space Engineers, a little bit of there's one other game I thought. Oh, well, Age of Empires 2 for old school. But you know, I've played a little bit of this here and there as well. I wanted to get this episode out. I want to keep the momentum going because I want to get this castle built. So today's episode, we're finishing up our ironworking. I did a little cut here, but what we're going to show is the iron is heating up, and we're basically just welding it into double ingots using this process right here. Obviously, the iron melting point is higher than some of the weaker metals like bronze and copper and tin, really. So you got to get it hotter in order to weld it. So that's the one of the challenges here. Like copper, if it turned red, I think, or super red, going pinkish red, it would actually melt. And iron, you got to get it like yellowish white. So that's kind of one of the differences. That's one of the reasons why iron became more popular than bronze. It did have a higher melting point, which, when crafted correctly, could potentially produce greater strength than bronze. So anyway, and part of the art of crafting iron involved removing impurities so that those strong bonds could form. So anyway, we're going to get rid of this bronze anvil, and we're going to place this iron anvil down right here. And we are going to place the bronze anvil back in our anvil storage. We have a copper and now a bronze. We didn't bother to put a stone anvil there because a stone anvil is basically just a stone. Okay, so with our new iron anvil, by the way, I keep producing new blooms. We did bloomery last time, but I keep producing new blooms as we go, just to kind of keep the iron production coming. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually do a little bit of crafting today. So what I thought we might do is a little bit of iron crafting and then a little bit of like follow-up work to our bronze crafting, because I never did finish my bronze armor. Checking the quest book here. Looks like I didn't even finish the quest that, I guess it's copper armor. We do have one Iron Age quest, the bloomery, so we'll go ahead and turn that in. I'll grab the... I'm going to grab the magnetite, I think. Okay. So we can make a hopper or shears or grill, and those are all quests. Those are iron objects that are very useful. So we might go ahead and move on to start doing that. I'm eating an orange, by the way. It's one of those small, it's not a clementine, but it's like a clementine. Same pattern as we've been using. It's the shrink, 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 punch, and then hit, hit, hit. And I'm just cutting ahead again. We are almost done with the iron of this batch, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this iron and start heating some of it, I suppose. Well, I'm going to put the iron away because I want to focus on the bronze first. So we're going to go ahead and, as you can see from my inventory there, we have bronze armor. And I'm wearing leather armor, which is okay, but I'd rather have the bronze armor on. It's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and stick this iron back here, and let's focus on the bronze working for now. So I'm heating up 4 bronze ingots, and I'm going to go ahead and throw the unfinished bronze armor in there as well. What you really don't want to do is you do not want to overheat your bronze armor and melt it, which is easy to do. So you keep your eyes on that like an eagle. Skipping ahead, I overheated my ingot slightly, but I did not overheat the armor, thank goodness. So easy to fix. I just pull them out in my inventory, and then I'm going to use their current hot stage to weld them together, and then now I'm going to create a sheet out of this same pattern. Shrink, 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 punch, hit, 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 and there it is. So we'll take the bronze sheet, and I think we have to get a double sheet to modify the armor. So I'm going to go ahead and heat this up a little bit more. And once we're able to weld these two together, and then we'll be able to produce a sheet, we'll weld the two sheets together, create a double sheet, and then we have to weld the double sheet together with the armor, and then we have to bang on the armor a little bit until it's ready. It's kind of a long process, but you feel pretty good when you get it done, and it's very rewarding to have armor. Welding the ingots together first, and then we'll craft it into a sheet. Shrink, 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 punch, hit, 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 hit. I did it in a slightly different order that time. And now what we want to do is get these sheets to the same temperature so we can weld them together. So I'll go ahead and heat the cooler one a little bit longer than the warm one there. And I just take that out temporarily until they're about the same temp. We have bright red on that, we have dark red on the other one, so we just need to wait until the other one warms up a little bit. I'm keeping my unfinished bronze chest plate out of the forge for now, just so I don't accidentally melt it. One other thing to note, I only have 4 ingot casts in my furnace, or in my forge right now. That's a little dangerous because I think the unfinished bronze armor might be worth 8 or possibly 4 ingots in its own right. So if all of that melted, I would only save half of the raw bronze, which is very unfortunate. So I'm going to wait until I probably was a little too conservative with the armor there, but I'm going to wait until the armor heats up now. Now that I've welded the two sheets together, I have that double sheet. We need to get them to be about the same temperature, weld them together, and then we need to, hammer that into a single item here. And you hammer it, and right, you see it says unfinished bronze chest plate. We're going to hammer it into a actual bronze chest plate. By welding first, we weld those in there, and now it's unfinished bronze chest plate level 2, or whatever it's called. And then we just bang it into shape here. This recipe's a little tricky. We have to hit a what's it called? Upset, hit to get it to work. So that's a little tricky, but we're pretty close. Yeah, we're very close now. Okay, there it is. And that is your bronze armor, and I think immediately it's considered cool. The game, the mod maker did not have to have a temperature mechanic for finished armor, only unfinished armor, because that's how you make it. So put all my stuff away. I don't trust the forge. I think it eats things, so I put stuff away. Let's go ahead and put the leather armor on our armor stand here for now. I'm going to probably move the leather stuff to a tannery at some point within the castle. Okay, so let's go ahead and do something else now. I guess we should make something out of iron. Now again, the quest book directed us a little bit on that. We have a couple choices. We could either do shears or a grill, or I think the other one was a hopper. I've actually never made a hopper in TerraFirmaCraft, truth be told. At least I don't recall ever having done so. But we can, and it would be useful for sure. It's just, I think it's a little bit expensive. We do get a little bit of iron reward for it though, so that's something to think about. Okay. Let's take a look at the recipe. Yeah, we need 2 double sheets to make a hopper. That is very expensive. That is 8 iron ingots worth right there. And then we actually have to craft it. Do we have to craft it? Just put iron bars over it. Iron bars you have to create too. That's more iron ingots. So the game really really punishes you for trying to get hoppers, I guess. In other words, it's a very high cost but likely high reward venture to do that. So we can do the grill. The grill would help us with food. Let's take a look at that, I think. Yes. The grill, yes, we need 2 double ingots, which is better than 2 double sheets. It's only 4 total. And it's very useful, so that would be worth our time. And then the shears here, yes, we just need two wrought iron knife blades, which is 1 ingot apiece. So that's only 2 ingots. We can do that pretty easily. Let's start with the shears, maybe do the grill next, and then the hopper last. Probably won't do all of these on the same episode either. Alright, so go ahead and get the grill, that is to say the forge, fired up again here. Gotta say, that orange was really good. Kind of like in TerraFirmaCraft, how having oranges tastes really good. Okay, let's grab... I guess I'm gonna grab 4. I only really need 2, though. And we'll get that heated up. Now, we gotta use this bellows. I'm skipping ahead again. We had to use the bellows to get it really hopping. And orange is just, let me tell you, it's just not gonna be hot enough to really manipulate. I can get started, but I'm gonna run out steam pretty quick. So you want to make sure your iron. By the way, without the bellows, your iron basically gets close to melting point, but I don't think it actually can go over melting point without bellowing it. So just kind of let it sit there for a while. It should just warm up right up to the edge of melting, but not melting. It's about perfect. So it's one little pro tip, is you can do that with iron fairly safely. With other metals, not at all. Okay, so that's one. Just kind of played around with that recipe. It's not too bad of a recipe. It's let me just give it a second here. Okay, so all we do is we have to hit. What is that? I can't even. Yeah, it's just we go all the way to the right, and then we use a combination of whatever that red one was. Okay, so we just combine those. You saw what we did with the iron, or with the bronze armor earlier. This one, we don't weld them together. We put them both in, and we do a recipe based on them. It's kind of a rare mechanic to have 2 separate inputs to get a single output in the anvil. I'm trying to think of other examples. I'm sure there are, I just can't think of them. I mean, armor, typically, you just weld onto it. You don't use separate pieces and hammer them together. You weld into them, typically, I think. So this is a little different, but it's interesting. Now let's go ahead and, I don't really know what to do with this, so I'm just going to make a double ingot, because we need that for the grill. Why can't I make the grill? Huh. Oh, I know why. I need 2 double ingots. Well, maybe I'll just save the iron for now. So we put the 2 knife blades in, and we just click on shears. Then we just have to do a recipe that requires 3 hits at the end. So it's very similar to the, the hitting apart the bloom, but it's a little different. So there's our shears. Now we have the shears. The shears are very, very useful component of our life, really. We're gonna go over here, and we're going to get the shears out. And the shears have like 2 primary uses, and there's some others as well. But the 2 primary uses, the main use is shearing sheep. You get wool from that. And you get twice as much wool. Sorry about the noise. You get twice as much wool from the sheep if you use shears rather than a knife. So that's kind of the incentive there. I mean, can you imagine going up to a sheep with a knife? I mean, it would be so inefficient. I almost think the turnaround rate should be higher. Not that manual shears are even that great, but much better than a knife. And then with regard to leaves, you will get a lot more sapling drops from using the shears, because it hits every single block as opposed to the scythe, which hits one block and kills blocks adjacent to it. So you hit more blocks overall, and each time you hit a block, I think there's a higher chance, or maybe it's the same chance, of dropping a sapling. But you have just trust me, you end up with more saplings and fewer sticks. Whereas the scythe, you'll end up with more sticks and fewer saplings. Swimming through our little interior river here. Let's go back, and let's, I think for the rest of the episode, it is getting to be a little bit warmer, and I do need to start thinking about planting soon, but let me show you the sheep mechanic here. Now, I did put that roof over the sheep because I felt I felt that they needed some protection from the snow during the winter so they could continue to graze and replenish their fur or their wool. But that ended up not being an issue. I don't know what caused it to not be an issue. I think it might have just been, you know, me not understanding the grass mechanics that well. But okay, so we have all this wool, and what we're going to do is we're going to make it into wool string, and then we're going to go ahead and use that string on the loom here, and we're going to craft some wool fabric. I probably won't show this completely because we've shown it on camera before, but this will give us the wool fabric. So let's just cut ahead. So I did some time doing wool fabric, but I decided after doing that I was going to come back and get some more iron from the iron mine. So here we are. This is the iron mine. Again, I've shown some of this on camera before, but you know, at some point, I guess the reason I'm showing this is because, you know, I wanted to give some footage of what I was up to. Some time has passed, by the way, a number of days. So we're really moving into spring. You can tell by the spring rain above. But I wanted to show you, you know, at some point, a mine becomes difficult to get ore from. And that's just because you've exhausted all the easily accessible blocks, so you have to go to the little bit less accessible blocks. And then the less accessible the blocks get, the less efficient it is to keep mining there. More efficient to go to a new site if you can find one, and get the more accessible blocks in the new site. This is especially true with mines like this, which are highly vertical. I prefer mines that are very horizontal because you can easily, you know, kind of figure out the layout of the mine in terms of, you know, how wide and deep it is and such, and you can easily figure out the parameters so you can kind of mine it out just like you want to. Okay, so what we're going to do as we find our way out of here is I think it is getting to be late in the season, springtime, so I think we're going to do some agriculture. By the way, iron is by far the most important metal in the game. Especially at this point, because not only is it useful in its own right, it is, but it's also used in almost every subsequent type of metal, unlike the metals we've been working with up to this point, which are used infrequently. Iron will be used almost always going forward. So it is so important to have a good stock of iron, and that's why we came back to mine some, and that is why we're going to keep working iron in the bloomery all this time. We're going to need that iron, whether it's now as iron or later as some sort of steel. Like every single type of steel has iron as its base ingredient, and then, you know, some have nickel inserted or added. Some have others. Okay, here's our rules that we made. We've been making these for the last couple episodes. The fast travel rule comes into play here because we just fast traveled, but you know, just a quick reminder. I don't know if we went over these in detail, but you know, there's a cost to fast traveling now. Once we get a horse familiarized, we're going to reduce that cost. And we're going to reduce it yet again once we have a travel cart. But we're also going to, there's a new recipe rule, and you know, those just have to kind of make sense. Flying is limited, and it does cost money, but it's limited to very strict set of types of situations. And then cheating in items. So we can only cheat in items if it's lost as a result of a glitch or a bug. And we may cheat in items for recipes freely with cost of rule 2. So we have to do the new recipe rule for that if an item is needed. But we don't get to keep the recipe items. We just use the items to make the recipe only. And then if we cheat an item in for another reason, it could cost quite a lot of money, frankly. Okay, so that's just kind of your basic rules. Now, the rationale for that, by the way, is I'm just trying to be realistic, okay? Because realistically speaking, I wouldn't be just the only guy out here in the world just kind of hacking it on my own. I would be accompanied by many other people. So the cheating rules are basically kind of simulating relying on other people for a cost, basically. Like the fast travel rule requires me to pay 4 copper ingots and food, which makes sense because it's like money plus food to get somewhere. You'd eat and you'd have to pay some guy to take you. By the way, that lava pit that you saw and that blue steel bucket, the blue steel bucket's there as a glitch. I tried to throw that away, but when you cheat in items, sometimes it creates a duplicate. The game thinks there's a duplicate when there's not really. So this lava pit is our bank. It's where we pay the cost of cheating, basically. We're not going to, one strict rule is we're not going to be able to harvest the sulfur from there. At least not now. Maybe like way late in the game when we have sulfur from a reliable source, we can start to think about, well, yeah, at least until we have blue steel. Let me put it that way. Otherwise, it would be cheating. Because once we get blue steel, we could just make this legit. So I just paid 4 ingots and then 160 ounces of these cashews, and that satisfies the cost of Rule 1 for fast travel. Again, other things require different costs depending on how we're using them, but we're trying to, rather than just allow me to cheat willy-nilly, which I probably would be inclined to do, we're actually trying to encapsulate the cheating into the Let's Play and make it realistic and fair. So it's not so much cheating as it is using a game feature at a cost. But that's kind of what we came up with for iron here. We got quite a few of these, or I'm sorry, these are cassiterite, not iron. But I'm just trying to reorganize my metal stocks here into these drawers. I love the drawers mod. I always have, ever since I think I first came across it in Blightfall. It is so useful for organizing things. It's like 4 crates all together. And here's a really rambunctious little skeleton. We're going to have to take him out. Goodbye, Mr. Skeleton. It was nice to know you. Okay, so with the remaining time on today's episode, we're coming to the end of today's episode, but we want to go ahead and do some farming here. So, let's go to the farm, because it is spring. It is almost all of the snow's gone. The only snow I really see is the stuff on top of the trees at this point. I don't see any on the ground. It's all melted down here on the ground where it's a little warmer. The mechanics of snow, by the way, have a lot to do with world height, as well as world latitude. So we're at a high latitude for sure, but we're at sea level for the most part. And at sea level it's warmer, in mountains it's colder. And that difference becomes dramatically clear when you see snow up in the middle of a tree, but you don't see any on the ground anywhere. That's let's just say a little bit of an approximation based on height. A little graphics glitch there in the world loading in. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab our hoe. Now I can't remember which of these had which nutrient. It looks like this one had nutrient C. So this third row was C. This one was B. So I must have just gone A, B, C. So what we want to do is we want to offset, yeah, because this is A up here. We want to offset that by 1, so we're doing crop rotation. So we want to put our nutrient A's down in the middle row, for example, or the close row, and shift everything accordingly. So what we'll do, we have plenty of inventory space freed up for this. Just grab a bunch of seeds. Now I'm not going to do all this on camera. I'll do a little bit on camera, but we'll go ahead and get started. So C. And the pumpkins are very important, obviously, for lights and other things. So we'll go ahead and do C. Now, you know what? I'm pretty sure I just screwed up there. I am speeding this way up because it is pretty much not useful to actually watch it in real time. So I just sped it up. It's kind of cool. I like the theme song when you speed it up too. It's kind of cool. You know, the truth is, it probably doesn't matter if our nutrients aren't rotated properly. All of these spaces had plenty of nutrients in them, and they'll grow just fine. And frankly, I'm a lot more worried about the temperature inhibiting growth of tropical plants than I am about the nutrients of most of our plants. So. That is often the case when you plant first thing after spring, especially in northern climates, because the north has more time to recover than the south. In the south, you can farm almost all year round, basically. So you really do need to rotate down there. Up here you should rotate, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world, as we're seeing with this. So, you know, we're almost done here, but I'm gonna finish planting. We're gonna do all this, and then, you know, next time we'll have all the crops in, and we'll start doing some other stuff. I do need to finish up some things with the ship, especially the sails. That's gonna be a big task, sails. We need to keep working on the castle, build some other buildings, and we especially need to do some work with some NPCs. A lot of exciting things to come here on TerraFirmaCraft. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Let's Play TerraFirmaCraft.